You've seen tractors. You've seen harvesters. But you've never seen farming machines like these. From bizarre experimental designs to strange contraptions built for oddly specific jobs, to vehicles so weird you'll wonder how they were ever approved for real farm work. These machines redefine unusual. Get ready for the 10 weirdest farming vehicles you never knew existed, because the world of farming gets a whole lot stranger than you think. Number 1. Fordson Snow Motor, 1920s. In the brutal winters of the early 20th century, farmers across Canada and Alaska faced a problem so severe that it halted agriculture for months at a time: deep, heavy snow. Traditional tractors sank immediately, horses struggled, wagons became useless. The need for a winter farming machine was enormous, and that's when the Fordson Snow Motor appeared, a tractor so bizarre, so ambitious, and so visually shocking that even today it looks like something from a steampunk fantasy. The Snow Motor was essentially a standard Fordson Model F tractor with one radical modification. Instead of wheels or tracks, it rolled on 2 enormous screw-propulsion drums. These spiral-shaped cylinders rotated like gigantic metal augers, biting into snow and pulling the tractor forward. The spirals provided flotation, traction, and propulsion all in one. As the drums turned, the machine literally screwed its way over snowfields, frozen lakes, and drifts taller than a person. During demonstrations, the Snow Motor impressed crowds by climbing snowy slopes, gliding across powder, and pulling heavy winter sleds with ease. Early farmers who used it claimed it moved effortlessly across terrain that stopped horses dead. Some units were even tested by the U.S. military for Arctic supply transport. For a moment, the future of snow farming seemed changed forever. But the Snow Motor's strange brilliance also led to its downfall. On hard surfaces, the screw drums offered almost zero grip and tore themselves apart. On mixed terrain, half snow, half earth, the machine struggled badly. Its long frame flexed, making steering unpredictable, and maintenance was a nightmare. Snow and ice packed into mechanical joints, causing breakdowns. Despite its flaws, the Fordson Snow Motor remains one of the most imaginative farming vehicles ever invented. It proved engineers in the 1920s weren't afraid to challenge the impossible, even if it meant creating a tractor that looked like a giant metal worm crawling across winter fields. Today, surviving snow motors are priceless artifacts, reminders of a time when farming innovation knew no limits. Number 2. LeTourneau Tree Crusher. Imagine a machine so massive, so unstoppable, and so terrifying that it could flatten entire forests like they were fields of tall grass. That machine actually existed, and it wasn't built for war, it was built for agriculture. The LeTourneau Tree Crusher, engineered in the 1960s, was designed for one simple but monumental task: clear vast stretches of wilderness to create farmland. This colossal vehicle weighed over 100 tons and looked like a mechanical dinosaur. Operators sat high above ground level in a cockpit that resembled the command deck of a battleship. Its power came from a massive diesel engine capable of pushing the machine forward through dense woodland. But its true weapon was its pair of enormous steel-crushing drums mounted at the front, each one taller than a man. As the tree crusher lumbered through forests, these rollers pulverized everything. Trees didn't just fall, they exploded into splinters under the pressure. Branches, roots, stumps, and undergrowth were ground into mulch. Within minutes, dense forest transformed into flattened land, ready for agricultural conversion. Agricultural developers in Canada used the machine heavily to expand farmland into remote wilderness areas. In places where logging would take months, the tree crusher cleared land in hours. But such crushing power came with complications. The machine drank fuel like a jet engine. Its weight made transportation almost impossible. It had to be shipped in pieces, and once an area was cleared, the machine had limited use unless another forest needed destruction nearby. Environmental concerns eventually ended its reign. Critics argued it caused irreversible damage to ecosystems. By the 1970s, the tree crusher faded from use. Today, a few rusted hulks still stand deep in Canadian forests, silent, gigantic ghosts of a time when the solution to clearing land was simply to build a machine big enough to run over entire forests. The tree crusher remains one of the weirdest and most intimidating farming-related machines ever built. Number 3. International Harvester HT341 Turbine Tractor. If there was ever a tractor that looked and sounded like it belonged on a runway instead of a farm, it was the International Harvester HT341, the world's first and only jet-powered farm tractor. Built in 1961, this bizarre machine was powered by a Boeing 502 turbine engine, a unit normally used in helicopters and auxiliary aircraft systems. The result? A tractor that didn't hum or chug, it shrieked. The turbine delivered extremely smooth rotational force, meaning almost no vibration. Farmers who tested it were astonished at how effortlessly it pulled heavy implements. Unlike piston engines, turbines don't struggle with sudden load changes. They produce a continuous whirl of power, making the HT341 feel futuristic and strangely effortless. Operators described the tractor as floating across fields, as the turbine-driven drivetrain responded instantly to throttle inputs. The exhaust alone was powerful enough to melt snow, blast dust clouds, and roast anything unlucky enough to stand behind it. But the HT341 was as impractical as it was impressive. Turbine lag made precision work difficult. The engine consumed massive amounts of fuel, far more than any diesel tractor. Dirt, dust, and crop debris posed a danger to the turbine blades, and maintenance required aviation-level expertise, far beyond what rural mechanics were used to. International Harvester knew the turbine tractor was unlikely to become a mainstream farming machine. Instead, it was a technological experiment, a bold attempt to push agricultural engineering into the future using aerospace innovations. Only one HT341 was ever built, and it still survives today as a priceless engineering relic. Its existence proves that even in the 1960s, tractor engineers weren't afraid to attempt the impossible. When people think of weird farming vehicles, nothing tops a tractor that literally runs on jet power. Number 4. Moline Universal Model D, 1917 to 1923. The Moline Universal Model D didn't just look different, it challenged everything farmers thought a tractor should be. Most tractors placed the engine, transmission, operator, and rear wheels together in one short, compact chassis. But the Universal? It stretched everything out like a mechanical centipede, creating one of the most bizarre tractor profiles in agricultural history. The Universal split the tractor into two major sections. At the very front, sometimes just 2 feet above the soil, sat the operator. Behind them stretched a long frame where implements were mounted, followed finally by the rear engine and drive wheels. This meant the farmer had a direct view of the plows, cultivators, and seeders while they worked. Instead of craning their neck or guessing whether rows were straight, they could literally watch the soil change beneath them as they steered. The idea was revolutionary. The design offered unmatched visibility and control. Farmers could ensure accurate depth while plowing, see weeds being uprooted in real time, and quickly adjust settings without stopping. The Universal was essentially an early attempt at precision farming a century before the term even existed. Its biggest flaw was stability. The long frame flexed awkwardly over uneven ground, causing implements to bounce. Steering was sensitive, weight distribution was tricky, and because the operator sat forward, many people felt unsafe driving it on slopes. Still, thousands were sold, and many farmers swore by the design. Today, the Moline Universal is considered a significant milestone in tractor evolution, a weird, bold experiment that dared to rethink the very structure of a farm machine. While modern tractors don't use its layout, the Universal influenced future ideas about visibility, ergonomics, and implement integration. Number 5. Fowler gyrotiller, 1920s to 1930s. The Fowler gyrotiller was less a farming machine and more a mobile land reforming factory. Built between the 1920s and 1930s, this massive machine was designed to tame wilderness, break virgin soil, and transform raw landscapes into workable farmland in a single pass. At the heart of the gyrotiller was a massive rotating drum packed with sharpened blades. These blades didn't just churn soil, they destroyed everything in their path. Thick brush, gone. Roots, pulverized. Small trees, turned into mulch. The drum dug deep into the earth, tearing through layers of vegetation and mixing it with soil to create a nutrient-rich field. The machine needed equally massive power. Early versions were steam-driven, with giant boilers mounted on steel frames. Later versions used diesel engines that roared like industrial monsters. Some units required multiple operators and large crews to maintain steam pressure, adjust the drum, and monitor traction. Plantations in Asia, Africa, South America, and Australia used gyrotillers for large-scale land conversion, jungle to farmland, scrubland to plantations. The gyrotiller did work that would have taken hundreds of workers months to achieve. But its power came at a cost. The machine was too large for most farms. Transporting it was extremely expensive. Its weight often damaged soil structure if used repeatedly. And once land was cleared, most farms no longer needed such a massive machine. Because of this, only a limited number were built. Many ended up abandoned or scrapped once their tasks were complete. Today, the gyrotiller stands as one of the most extreme, massive, and strange agricultural vehicles ever made. A rolling steel juggernaut built for the sole purpose of conquering wild landscapes. Number 6. Caterpillar D2 Firefly, 1940. During World War II, the British countryside wasn't just farmland. It was a battlefield. German bombers routinely flew night missions across the UK, targeting factories, airfields, and transportation hubs. But rural farmland was often caught in the crossfire, with bombs intended for military targets landing on fields, livestock areas, and food production sites. To protect critical farmland, British engineers devised one of the strangest machines in agricultural history, the Caterpillar D2 Firefly. On the surface, a Firefly looked like a standard Cat D2 crawler tractor, but at night, it transformed into something out of a science fiction movie. It was outfitted with an elaborate network of glow panels, diffused lamps, reflectors, and blackout shields. These were designed to mimic the layout of an active industrial facility when seen from thousands of feet above. The Firefly wasn't meant to hide farmland. It was meant to create fake cities. When the lamps flickered on, the tractor became a mobile decoy, moving slowly across fields in patterns that resembled runway lights or factory windows. The glow was carefully calibrated, bright enough to be visible to pilots but dim enough to avoid ground detection. In the sky, bombers saw what looked like a factory complex or airbase. They dropped bombs on harmless farmland instead of real strategic targets. Farmers operating Fireflies worked in complete secrecy, often under military instruction. They would guide the glowing tractors across fields at night, create false patterns, then quickly turn them off and reposition for the next wave. It was dangerous, eerie, and mentally exhausting work. Despite its bizarre appearance, the Firefly played a real role in the war effort. These glowing tractors saved countless lives and protected thousands of acres of farmland. They remain a fascinating example of how agricultural machines were adapted into psychological and visual warfare. Today, only a few remnants of Firefly units exist, but their story stands as one of the strangest intersections between farming, engineering, and military deception. Number 7. Lanz Bulldog Hot Bulb Tractor, 1920s to 1950s. The Lanz Bulldog wasn't just a tractor, it was a mechanical personality. Produced in Germany from the 1920s through the 1950s, this strange-looking machine became iconic for its bizarre engine design, a single-cylinder hot bulb engine so large that the entire tractor shook with every ignition stroke. To start the engine, farmers had to perform a ritual that modern operators find unbelievable. They held a blowtorch under the ignition chamber for several minutes until the bulb glowed red-hot. Only then would the tractor fire up with a thunderous whomp that echoed across entire villages. Once running, the Bulldog produced a slow, rhythmic beat, chug, 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 that shook the ground and made the whole tractor wobble side to side. The tractor moved like a living creature rather than a machine. Its exaggerated engine motion and rocking frame gave it an oddly animated presence. Despite its strange operation, the Lanz Bulldog was incredibly popular. Its engine was extraordinarily simple, with very few moving parts. It could burn almost any fuel: kerosene, diesel, motor oil, vegetable oil, Even mixtures farmers improvised themselves. This made it perfect for rural Europe, where fuel shortages were common. The Bulldog was so tough that farmers jokingly called it indestructible. It could run under heavy load for hours, withstand terrible roads, and survive extreme temperatures. Its unmistakable sound became part of rural culture. In some regions, people claimed they could recognize which farmer was approaching simply by the rhythm of their bulldog's exhaust. Today, the Lanz Bulldog is a beloved antique machine, restored by collectors and displayed at shows where crowds gather just to hear its signature thumping idle. It remains one of the weirdest yet most charming tractors ever built, a mechanical dinosaur powered by a single massive heartbeat. Number 8. Ransomes MG2 Crawler Tractor, 1936 to 1941. The Ransomes MG2 is one of the strangest and smallest farming tractors ever made. At first glance, it looks like a tiny military tank, and that resemblance is no coincidence. Produced in Britain, the MG2 was designed for specialized farm work in tight spaces where conventional tractors simply couldn't operate. This machine rode on narrow caterpillar tracks, allowing it to navigate marshy soil, wet fields, steep slopes, and narrow garden rows. But what made the MG2 truly bizarre was how it was controlled. Most tractors have a steering wheel. The MG2, it was operated using long mechanical levers that controlled the track brakes, essentially making the driver pilot it like a small tank. Later versions added remote control features, allowing farmers to operate the MG2 from a distance. This was incredibly useful when spraying chemicals, working in orchards with falling branches, or plowing hazardous terrain. It also made the MG2 one of the earliest remotely operated farming vehicles in the world. Gardeners loved the MG2 for its compact size. Orchards loved it for its maneuverability. Soldiers loved it so much that during WoW, the British military adapted MG tractors for training and munitions handling. Despite its usefulness, the MG2 was too specialized to become mainstream. Its tiny size, unusual controls, and slow speed made it impractical for large farms. But in small-scale agriculture and horticulture, nothing could match its ability to work in confined or dangerous spaces. Today, surviving MG2s are prized among collectors for their rarity and unique design. They remain one of the weirdest crossover creations between agriculture and military-style engineering. Number 9. Alvin Lombard Log Hauler, 1901 to 1917. Before the first tractor rolled across a field, before Caterpillar became a company, before tanks changed warfare forever, there was the Lombard Log Hauler, a steam-powered agricultural and forestry machine that introduced the world to continuous tracks, technology that would later power tractors, military tanks, bulldozers, and countless off-road machines. Invented by Alvin Lombard in Maine, this incredible machine looked like a locomotive had crashed into a tank. At the front were long wooden steering skis that a human operator handled manually. Behind them was a massive steam boiler, driving enormous metal tracks instead of wheels. The log hauler crawled through deep snow, hauling huge loads of timber that horses could never manage. It could pull 200 tons of logs across icy forests, powering through terrain so unforgiving that early trucks simply sank or shattered. But its weirdness didn't end there. The machine required a crew, a fireman to feed the boiler, a steersman for the skis, and occasionally a brakeman. Sparks from the boiler often set surrounding trees on fire. Crews wore special clothing to avoid burns, and the steam pressure made it one of the most dangerous farm-related vehicles ever built. Yet its success was undeniable. The Lombard log hauler worked reliably in deep winter forest environments where no other machine could travel. Its track system inspired future designs, most notably those adopted by Holt, which eventually evolved into the Caterpillar brand. Today, surviving Lombard log haulers are museum treasures. They stand as a testament to early ingenuity and as the true ancestors of the modern track tractor. Without this strange steam monster, off-road farming might look very different today. Number 10. Daimler Draisine Agricultural Locomotive, 1910s. Long before modern trucks and tractors became common, large European estates relied on narrow-gauge farm railways, tiny train systems built directly into fields, and the most unusual machine used on these rural rail networks was the Daimler Draisine, a small agricultural locomotive that blurred the line between train and tractor. Instead of wheels designed for soil, the Draisine used steel-flanged train wheels. It ran on tracks that snaked through farmland, orchards, and vineyards. Its purpose was purely agricultural, hauling harvested crops, transporting tools, carrying workers, and moving fertilizer or seed across large estates. But what made it truly weird was its hybrid design. The Draisine had the engine and controls of a tractor, but the running gear of a locomotive. Its small gasoline engine powered a chain-driven transmission that turned the rail wheels. Steering didn't exist. The rails dictated direction. Some models even had wooden cabs and farm-style control levers. Farm railways were popular in places where roads were poor or where hauling heavy materials by wagon was too slow. Estates used them like industrial conveyor belts stretched across the countryside. Yet, as tractors improved and trucks became common, farm railways died out. Tracks were pulled up, locomotives scrapped, and farmland returned to normal driving. A few Draisine agricultural locomotives survived, and today they are among the rarest farming vehicles on Earth. They represent a forgotten era, when the boundary between farm machine and railway machine was surprisingly thin, and when farming innovation meant laying down your own train system. They remain one of the strangest, most unexpected inventions in agricultural history. These farming vehicles may look strange, but they proved one thing. Innovation doesn't always look normal. Which weird machine surprised you the most? Drop your pick in the comments. If you love unusual inventions, odd farming gear, and machines that make you say, "What is that?" Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more bizarre and brilliant discoveries. Thanks for watching, and remember, farming's weirdest ideas are often the most unforgettable.